Marfoogle TV going live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, we're going to go over a lot of really alarming developments. And again, this is, if you watched today what happened, you will see that stuff we were just talking about even yesterday, and of course for months and months and months, is happening right in front of people's faces, and they're just not putting two and two together. So I will show you that. But first, let's get into chaos as a U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds jet crashes in a fireball near Death Valley. An F-16C fighter jet exploded into a huge fireball after crashing in a desert in Death Valley on Wednesday. The pilot did get out, so he was able to eject from the plane, which was part of the U.S. Air Force's air demonstration squadron known as the Thunderbirds. So again, not exactly the most hard hitting here to start you off, but it is going to get crazy. I just want to forewarn you, if you are easily anxietied by some of the scary things going on in the world, I would highly recommend you not watch this episode, because there is a lot here. All right, now we're going to go over so much. I'm going to show you guys here in a second that event that just happened in New Orleans. There is so much there. We'll get into it in just a moment. We'll get into what is going on with Central America, with, of course, Ukraine and Russia, all of that in just a moment. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam and K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. All right, so we got a lot to go into. Before we get started, let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Some said that Dex was low last night, so make sure to let me know in chat if he is properly loud enough. I had to turn mine down because the night before mine was way over amped. So again, thank you guys for your help on the sound. It is a unique situation on the back end here, so thank you. All right, so we're going to go into a lot, and again, I'm going to go into the New Orleans event, which absolutely, if you've been following my show, then when you saw what was going on and the people that were snatched up today, then you absolutely should be saying to yourself, like, holy moly, this is absolutely what's happening. So we'll go over that in just a moment. North Korea's aging fighter jets. Dex, want to go into that. And they look like they have a certain new weapon.
They certainly do. So they showcased a new air-launched weapon on Sunday that bears striking similarities to Western-made cruise missiles. So imagine that. You know, we just talked about on our other show how the U.S. was reverse engineering the Shahed so that we could have disposable drones. And now, of course, we've got North Korea, just like China and others who copy our technology as well. So at least in appearance, no information was released about the new weapon's capability, but an advanced cruise missile would significantly extend the attack range of their Su-25 fighters and allow them to strike key facilities at a safer distance from U.S. and South Korean air defenses. So the state media published the photos of the unidentified missile in Kalama Airfield as Kim Jong-un, North Korea's leader, visited the facility for a ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of the country's Air Force. And you can see in that one image, they've got a little red box around those missiles that kind of look very much like the Western missile.
Now, in a moment, too, there is even more. There was more verification of something that we previously talked about with South Korea. You guys know I've gone on many rants about the South Korean president, what happened there, and how eerily silent the president was. There's actually a new story from the Korea Times out just last week that actually talks about how he has said nothing about it, and stating that an inside source and somebody was at Mar-a-Lago and actually heard him talk about it. So we'll go over that here in a minute. This is insane stuff when you get confirmations of these things that, you know, your heart and your gut absolutely knew, and then you wait and it takes half a year to get any kind of confirmation that you're not crazy. So it to me it's exactly what's going on here. And there are so many open variables too, though, because I still wonder about who's on the good side, who is infiltrated, who is I mean, we are talking about spy games here that regular civilians just don't understand how much there truly is that is happening right now. It is so broad and so big. It's just insane. Now, going into the next story, Turkey, which again, this fits into the whole big picture too. Remember, Turkey is actually the lead of the Black Sea strategy. And of course, they have many of the countries surrounding them actually looking to Turkey for guidance, including that whole Armenia, Azerbaijan, shaking hands and things was all part of this as well. It all fits into a bigger piece of the puzzle. But Turkey says, of course, very scary attacks on Russia-linked tankers threaten the Black Sea safety. Remember, they're telling their public that this event is threatening our safety. That is put into the mind of their civilians. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan on Wednesday said that the very scary attacks on recent days on Russia-linked tankers in the Black Sea threatened the safety of all in the region and showed the reach of the war in Ukraine was expanding. The strikes within Turkey's exclusive economic zone violate navigational safety and are impacting commerce, he said, adding that Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, which also border the Black Sea, were looking at measures to boost security. Fidan also discussed the attacks, some claimed by Ukraine, with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels, as well as his counterparts from Bulgaria, Romania, and the others. Again, says Ukraine, which is targeting Russia's oil exports as Moscow bombards its power grid, took responsibility for an attack by seaborne drones on 2 empty tankers heading towards Russian port last week. Kiev denied any link to another incident on Tuesday in which a Russian-flagged tanker loaded with sunflower oil said that it had come under drone attack off of the Turkish coast beyond the Black Sea. A Beskitas shipping tanker that also did business with Russia was damaged near Senegal by external impacts. No one claimed responsibility. Fidan and Rutte discussed Black Sea security and negotiations to the end of the nearly 4-year war. Now, remember, Turkey has flip-flopped and been the country that has been in the way of other countries even joining NATO. There's a lot of questionability about, where their actual kind of loyalties lie. But this, I believe, is a small part of a bigger puzzle when it comes down to it. And again, I think that this is going to come back into play. So remember this story. Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. We're completely independent, which, again, the stuff that we're talking about, people think that, the theory that I have that it's shock value or something for views, it does the opposite. The stuff that we talk about, we choose to talk about, and I guarantee you're going to start to see there is a public pushback on everything that I have been saying over the last few years. So if you do want to support us in another way and get yourself prepared, I highly, highly recommend getting an EMP shield. This is going to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators against not only an EMP strike from any adversary, that would hit our country, but also backpack devices that would hit cities. Or again, this will also protect you against a solar natural event. It will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. That way you're going to get home to your family to bug in or get out to bug out. Right now, the Black Friday sale combines with our $50 off grandfathered in discount. So you get $50 off per device. So if you get one, that's 50, 2, 100, 3, 150, plus their 25% off on their products. So again, make sure to go check that out, marfuglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, let's get back into the news. We've got, of course, a new combat-proven ballistic missile shield that shot down Iranian threats is now deployed to Europe. Dex, do you want to go over this and what this proves?
Well, the top Israeli air defense system credited with defeating waves of Iranian ballistic missiles is now for the first time in the hands of a foreign military and set to boost European defense. The deployment of the Arrow 3 ballistic missile shield to Germany comes as NATO's forces look to strengthen their long-range air defenses in the face of the growing threats from Russia to the east. The system can intercept missile targets beyond Earth's atmosphere, making it a high-value acquisition. So this one's really good for ICBMs. And any of those higher launched long arcing missiles. So now we see this, they've got the shield, so to speak, or in this case, the Arrow 3. It's not a golden dome as we're trying to build here in America, but it is a form of that dome, and it's now in Germany.
Yeah, so, and it's just odd that, we have all of these weird events happening. Germany, just yesterday or the day before, there was an article that ended up coming out talking about how one of their main military officials essentially said that their connections with the Pentagon has been cut off. Like that all of a sudden the Pentagon has cut Germany off from military communications. This is odd. It's saying that they even had to go as far as talking to their diplomats in Washington and having them go chase people down in the Pentagon to see what the hell is going on with their defense plans. So something is off here again with Germany. You just watch Germany, because something is happening here. If not, at the very least, I think that we are not trusting many countries with any of our defense plans right now, because something massive is being planned. Obviously, with a huge chunk of our military down by Venezuela, it's pretty obvious that that's agreed upon. And then Wang Yi and Sergei Lavrov emphasized the importance of safeguarding the outcomes of the victory of World War II. In fact, Dex, I'm going to have you go over this. My end is actually not loading this correctly.
Yeah, certainly. Wang Yi said that since the beginning of this year, the international environment has become increasingly unstable, uncertain, and unpredictable. And mind you, this is the foreign minister of China who was in Moscow meeting in Moscow with Sergei Lavrov and others. Under the strategic guidance of President Xi Jinping and President Vladimir Putin, China-Russian relations dare to brave high winds and choppy waters and meet challenges head-on, achieving a high-level, wide-ranging, high-quality development. The two heads of state held an in-depth exchange twice this year on the occasion of commemorating the 80th anniversary of the victory of World War II, focusing on changes unseen in the century, charting the course for reshaping the China-Russia relationship and providing stability and uncertainty in the world. Now, apparently they were also meeting to discuss potential things that related to the Ukraine conflict and whether or not they were going to, come to a peace deal there. As we keep hearing between what's going on between Europe and Russia as it relates to it, Russia saying they're not sabotaging it, Europe acting like, throwing out things like they want to do first strikes, etc., towards Russia. It's very clear that somebody wants to break the peace down and break it apart and keep the war going, as well as expand that war. And I think that somebody, maybe Europe, to be honest, at least some of the leadership there, they certainly are mongering it, that's for sure. But we've got China continuing to play this role of getting in. They've got that no limits partnership with Russia, and they're trying to, make sure they're jockeying the right position, as well as standing up as a global leader, because they want to be number one. So they have to play this part as it relates to where the U.S. would normally step into these big high power meetings. So they're trying to give that appearance.
And they fit a huge, huge part into this, as you will start to see. And one of my thoughts here, and something going forward I'm really thinking about reiterating to people, is I think you have to throw out almost everything and really take 10% of anything that is from mainstream media, and 90% you have to follow your gut. And I think that if you actually do agree with my theory on what's going on right now, if you think of things through that light, you will start seeing more and more confirmations about what is happening right now. And the problem with it is you always doubt your own thoughts about things, because something will come out and it will be official, or it will have this on it, and it will somehow break down a part of it, right? Well, then you wait long enough and you find out, oh, that was done because of this or that. It's like the 2 or 3 times I've doubted myself are because of official information, or this came out, and then you wait 3 or 4 months and they find out that official information was actually bunk and debunked. So it was like, okay, so then that means that we're still at square one and there's nothing holding back my theory. This is getting absolutely nuts, because this actually goes really far back. This goes back to 2019. Like really, really clear signs that all of the countries involved right now not only have these direct connections, but this was being prepared for all the way back then. We're talking about 6 years ago, and I was talking about this back then, but I had no idea the stories that we were covering with the money that was being sent, the stuff that was happening, like the Iranian boats going to Venezuela, the Wagner troops in Venezuela training in Caracas, the Caracas connection, all of this stuff, all of this is coming to fruition. It's all happening. But again, first, a mini airship maker says constant jamming from Russia is helping it build aircraft for NATO. Now, I'm actually gonna pause this and I'm gonna step over to this Korea Times article real quick, and I want to point this out. This was something that I didn't know about until I was in a discussion with Grok. And I was talking to Grok about the different connections, and that I was actually looking really deep into what happened today in New Orleans, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But this was ended up brought up as something else that connected to what I was thinking, right? And they were like, actually, there's verification, there's more stuff on that. So as you guys know, the South Korean president was impeached, or you should know that essentially at 2 a.m. in the morning, he declared martial law. He said that the country was being infiltrated, that at the highest level that China was infiltrating, and that they were trying to essentially do some sort of coup, right? He declared martial law. Within 8 hours, they declared him, and get this, they declared him MAGA, right? That he was a fascist. They have the same left-right thing that's going on here, that his martial law was this huge fascist thing and whatever else, and all the media pulled the same stuff. The same playbook is happening there as it is here. They literally said that he did this because he was power hungry and he's this egotistical, and they make him out to be our president. No joke. Everything about it. And of course, he said that, there was infiltration at the highest levels, and they were sympathetic to North Korea and trying to help North Korea, and of course, backed by China. There's all sorts of funds that are connected to all of this. He even declared he believed that there were bankrolling of politicians in South Korea that essentially were pulling strings and changing things and moving things around. So he gets impeached. And he gets impeached fast, right? Trump says nothing. This is South Korea president, and one thing I didn't know, he was at summits with him just a few days prior. They were chumming it up. They were shaking hands, everything. When he gets impeached, not one single thing, and I said this, but I didn't know, I never actually went and checked if it was verifiable. You can go ask. You can go look this up yourself. He made not one truth post social about it. He made not one tweet about it. He made not one statement about it. Not one. a major ally, a major country with technological advancements in robotics and AI, and one of the countries that we actually have a lot riding on, didn't say a single thing when he got impeached. And part of it could be the fact that they angled it towards this whole, that he is the version of our president in there. But another angle, again, is that this is some really crazy operations going on by other countries, and they're not talking about it because they're not trying to point this out. The connection, as Dex said the other night, the more that you come out with this without proof, and that's the problem. They have been so very careful to make sure that there is no visible proof of this, that it is very easy to have media say, oh, this is disproven. Oh, if it's putting out stuff that makes people dislike this certain kind of people, and it's very harmful. BS, okay? The president joked, says, everyone calls me chaotic, but look at South Korea. It says, everyone calls me chaotic, but look at South Korea, a news report said. His remarks reference to political turmoil sparked by South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's failed martial law bid. His remarks were reported by U.S. broadcaster CBS based on interviews with a dozen people with knowledge of the events at Mar-a-Lago in the weeks between the day he got chosen in November and Inauguration Day, except for Monday. He said he cracked jokes. Everyone calls me chaotic, but look at South Korea. He said one day, and he said he'd meet with the Korean president Yoon Suk-yeol if they'd ever stop impeaching him. It says when Trump made such remarks was not immediately known, but he appears to refer to the political crisis caused by Yoon's martial law declaration, right? So he's talking about how he did this botched martial bid thing. He has not made one public comment about this. So it was almost like he didn't know about it, but obviously he stayed silent on purpose. Not one public comment on this. That shows that he absolutely knows about it, that he jokes about it at dinner, but yet he has not made one statement about it. That's pretty serious when a major country has its president impeached and totally taken out and made like a fool, and all of his followers. They had a huge protest when he was impeached. He has a lot of supporters, Yoon Suk-yeol. And I said this since day one. I said this looks super strange. And the reason that this ties into everything is because absolutely all of our adversaries, everything ties back to one country. It is nuts. So again, we'll go over that and how it connects into the other story that just happened today. But a mini airship maker again says that constant jamming from Russia is helping it build aircraft for NATO. Dex, basically they're looking at what's going on right now, and they're saying, okay, we'll need it to do this, right?
Yeah, well, get this. You're going to see these mini blimps, and think about the giant Goodyear blimp that we see at football games and things like that. But they're making miniature versions of these now that can run for up to 12 hours. And they're deploying them with surveillance equipment and other types of gear on them, similar to like what you might see on a drone, to give them the capabilities and the technology they need, especially when they're getting satellites and other things blocked in the battlefield. Now, these aren't good on the front line; they're good sort of on the back of the front line, so they're just out of reach from being shot down, but high enough up that they can do all this surveillance and or get communications and things like that. It made me think of that balloon project, was it Skyfall or something like that they were talking about here in America, where they would launch all these balloons to put up temporary internet. Although I don't know if we need that now that we've got Starlink, but nonetheless, this is what's the latest advancement that's coming out, and this company there is pumping these out at breakneck speed now to get these mini what look like blimps, and they're some sort of gas-based blimp.
Yeah, and the images of them, I'll just pull that up again. Or I don't know if these are renders. Again, these, I think this is it looks like it's possibly a digital render, but if they have all of these things floating around, I mean, just imagine what a future war would look like. It would look like a Red Alert 2 screensaver. Honestly, it's getting nuts. And then Afghanistan's Taliban rulers carry out public popping of somebody in Sports Stadium in Eastern City. So as I pointed out yesterday and the day before and this whole month, the message is ramping up on the Middle Eastern terror aspect, right? Whether it is organic and happening, or it is some sort of op that is bought and paid for by, I don't know who, either our adversary or our CIA landing in Bagram base with millions of dollars in suitcases. I don't know which is which, or if it's just, completely something that where the kids of the people that were taken out in 2001 are now coming back or 2010, and they're all coming back and their revenge is going to be sacrificed. But there's been a lot about this angle, and I highly, highly think that this is going to pop up again because this kind of message puts fear into the heart of everybody. When you don't know when the next hair attack is, all of this, it was very effective in being able to essentially have people drop their guards and ask for more control over them. Again, it said out of Afghanistan's Taliban authorities carried out a public taking out of somebody at a stadium in the eastern city of Khost on Tuesday, putting a man down who the country's Supreme Court said had taken 13 members of a family out, including several children earlier this year. Tens of thousands of people, including relatives of the victims, attended this taking out of this guy in the sports stadium, which the Supreme Court said was the 11th carried out since the Taliban seized power in 2021, in the wake of the chaotic withdrawal of the U.S. and NATO forces. So if you remember when we pulled out and the plane left and everybody's hanging onto the wheels, all of that happened. The Taliban not only seized power, but they got $700 million worth of our gear, worth of our Humvees, our Blackhawks, all sorts of things that they got. Well, now they're actually doing these stadium public executions, which is pretty nuts to think of. Now, maybe that guy actually deserved it. He took out 13 people. But at the same time, we're talking about in 2025, a stadium of people watching this like it's modern day Rome. What did you think about when you saw this, Dex?
I just think it's like anything Afghan now. If they can find something to talk about and scare us with it, they're going to do it. And, this is yet another one of those stories, right?
Well, why didn't we hear about the first 11?
Yeah, exactly. So it's, because we've got the Afghan story from DC, we got the Afghan story from Texas with the guy wanting to take out, buildings and stuff in, I don't remember which town it was. I think it was Fort Worth. And then now we throw this in. So it seems like every day they're going to give us an Afghan story right now.
Again, they have imposed a strict interpretation of law, which has included a return of public taking out of people, as well as bans on Afghan women and girls from secondary school and university education from most forms of employment. But of course, folks on TikTok want us to have it. So yeah. Before we move on, make sure to go check out Harvest Right. Again, we're independent, so if you want to support us and get yourself one of the coolest hobbies that will actually protect you in any disaster, I would highly recommend going and getting yourself a Harvest Right. If you're going to get any freeze dryer, this is one of the best on the markets. During CV, during 2019 and all that, these were being scalped. They were so precious at that point because everybody wanted them and nobody could find them. So in a disaster, when there is an actual real disaster that you would, obviously want to go get this right away, they're not there. So you definitely want to have this kind of thing set up before something happens. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze and make sure, again, to use that link because that will instantly get you the discount on it. You can actually get up to $1,000 off right now with the Black Friday sale. Again, that also gives us a commission. It helps us out and it gets you prepared. It's the easy way to freeze dry your food and it actually becomes more affordable. Once you invest in the equipment, you can actually save a ton of money. I mean, we're talking a ton. They say that you can, on average, spend about 25% of what you would as if you went in and bought pre-made or pre-packaged freeze-dried food. Not to mention, you can choose what you're freeze-drying. You can choose your exact meals. You can do your own recipes. It's actually a really cool hobby. Now, House Democrats post new footage of the EpiPen Island as Congress demands answers on when the full files will be released. Dex, do you want to talk about the new stuff that they put out just to give
instead
it
of talking, let's just look at the pictures, because it's not. We don't need to read all the rhetoric around it, because all it really is just insight. So like there's a dentist chair with like faces all over the wall. Like what is going on with this room? Like this is is this how he gets his dental work done on his island?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, I think that this is something more like that was probably a torture or like a Bill Cosby thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's
they had
a
they had another picture of like a bunch of small structures, which I can't make nothing out of. A bedroom. They show the inside of a bedroom, so if you're curious what that looks like. And then there's a shower room. It's like got some sort of like seated shower with a shower head over it and shower things on the wall. It's images that I've never seen before. There's a phone with some names redacted on it, with the hotline buttons on there, like the New York office, and Darren and Rich and Patrick and Larry or whoever in the kitchen, and then some other interesting things written on the wall, like music, power, deception, and then some redacted information on the chalkboard wall too. So I don't know. We don't know what's behind the redaction there.
Huh.
But these are pictures we've never seen before. So
wait. Power, deception. Wait. Does that say power, deception?
Yeah.
What the hell? Plants? Truth?
And music.
Wow. Do you think this was some sort of like coked up, like this is how we do it? This is the basic breakdown of our takeover. Like what the hell? Or it was, Bill over at the house, hanging out. Yeah, this is, if we'll never get all of it, right?
Right. I mean, there's the image everybody wants to see, like the evidence of ungodly acts. But
I don't know. That dentist chair is pretty creepy.
Yeah, that chair is creepy. But yeah, it's not like there's
oh my God, the masks on the wall. They wear them. Yeah. They wear them. I guarantee you that's not for them to look at. Those are. You know how scary that is? What if you woke up in that chair and you had a bunch of men around you wearing those masks? Like, that is so terrifying. That is just so freaking creepy. Oh. And then Taiwan cheered, China upset after the president signs a new law. Now, this it's like I don't understand. I do understand. So we publicly have to like kind of kowtow. We were so coupled with China that this was really hard. It was really hard to support Taiwan, because publicly, if we are supporting Taiwan's government, we're basically telling China that it's not yours. There's always been this kind of partial agreement that they would respect the two countries, one China or whatever they call it, and essentially not treat Taiwan as an actual, sovereign state or sovereign country. But Taiwan expressed thanks, and China was upset Wednesday after President Donald signed into law registration requiring the U.S. State Department to regularly review and update guidelines on how the United States officially interacts with Taipei. Now, it goes back to 2021 under the first administration that Secretary Mike Pompeo lifted restrictions on contacts between U.S. officials and their Taiwanese counterparts. Because back then, China said you can't even talk to them. Because, and people, some would look at that and go, what do you mean you can't talk to them? Well, because in their minds, that's China. If you're talking to the Chinese government, you talk to the Chinese government. You don't talk to some other government regarding our country. That's how they viewed it. The Taiwan Assurance Implementation Act, which the president signed into law on Tuesday, says that the U.S. State Department should carry out reviews of these contacts every 5 years. The law affirms the value of the U.S. interaction with Taiwan, supports closer Taiwan-U.S. relations, and stands as a firm symbol of our shared values in democracy, freedom, and respect of human rights. But, half of these things, it's like this is straight like these jabs that go back and forth, these tit for tats. We're not just straight up saying or supporting. They're putting out in the media that this is pissing them off. Yeah, of course. But we're already at war with them. I'm telling you, we are already at war. And it's so funny because you're seeing them do these things back and forth, but it's like both sides can't admit that publicly that they know that the other is doing things behind the scenes. Now, I'm gonna go into the Grok, the different things that I have here on Grok about this ICE thing. And the reason why is I wanted to go into the breakdown without any news media telling us the political aspect of this. When you watch the news, this is the problem with the story in New Orleans. It is so heavily politicized, and now everybody's saying it's this or that, and it's broken down the middle into this two-sided argument, right? But if you're here and you've been watching for a long time, you probably think that this is less about a left versus right. This is more like U.S. versus China, U.S. versus Venezuela, Iran, Russia. That's where my head is at. This is not about left and right. Remember, social media is now controlled, and it is a weapon now. There's very scary stuff. Go and look for yourself about what happened in Mexico. That very well could have been a weaponization of TikTok, and people don't realize this. I did not know. There were videos put out right before that protest teaching people how to do it. There were duets. There were all these videos that came out all of a sudden out of nowhere, and people did notice it. People studied it. People saw it. And you go, well, but TikTok was sold to the U.S. No, the ban has been extended, but we still do not control ByteDance. And that is a literal weapon. You know how? It can literally weaponize young people. It can make everybody on a platform that is addictive, that they spend 12 hours on every single day, 7 days a week, think something to a point where they go, yeah, I'm going to go. It can literally motivate people to get out and throw rocks at buildings. That's why people, said that this was a weapon to begin with. All of a sudden, the algorithm put out just a few days before this huge political push. And it was geared directly towards getting people out and protesting. Tell me that that's not freaking, that doesn't make sense. And that was to protest in Mexico. So the raids that are happening, remember, there's leaders in Mexico getting taken out. I've been telling you about Guatemalan, the political strife there. Honduran is having all sorts of strife in their political system right now. You have Nicaragua, El Salvador, you have Colombia, you have Venezuela and Colombia now at the forefront of this, where they're essentially saying that they would even attack, the president said he would attack Colombia. He said anybody, the way they come through if the way that they came in through any country, and then he changed it, he goes, Colombia, they're making cocaine. Anybody that does that, we can attack. He basically was talking directly to Colombia, saying we can attack you without telling the public that we know you're a part of this whole thing, right? We know that you're part of this. It's like they know the intelligence, we don't, so their message means something else to their leaders in Colombia. But get this raid targeted. This raid, 250 to 300 ICE agents went in New Orleans, went into restaurants, went into Home Depot parking lots, went everywhere, just scattered throughout the city, and did these strike team elite freaking hits on these people. And remember, my belief is that a lot of people, foreign soldiers, snuck in through the last 4 years, hidden in this whole group of things. And there's a lot more that has to come. I wish I could put all of this together in one show, but it goes back to 2019. There is Silk Road funding that goes into Venezuela and Colombia. There's Silk Road funding that goes into this. There's Iranian funds and training that goes into Venezuela. There's Russian Wagner Group in Caracas. There's all of these things that go back all the way back. And there's pieces by The Atlantic. There's pieces by the Washington Post back in the day that nobody's even looking at, that, they didn't know what they were looking at that time, but covering this huge connection between all of these countries and the reason why we are down in Venezuela. I believe it is the root of where everybody is stationing. I believe that they are essentially ramping up something down there, that they might even have troops down there. And this is a crazy thought. I've never said this, but I believe that they are actually gathering troops in Colombia and Venezuela and all the way down in South America. This raid, they called it Operation Catahoula Crunch. I said, was the ICE raid mostly Central Americans in New Orleans today? Yes, the ICE led immigration enforcement operation in New Orleans on December 3rd. Primarily targeted undocumented immigrants from Central America based on the demographics of the areas raided and the profiles that were detained. Raid locations, again, they went into restaurants and Home Depots and offices. It said, let's see here. If you look at the breakdown, so they ended up Honduran, right? Nobody's talked about that. 35 to 45%. And I just was mentioning, nobody's talking about Honduras, but yet I was talking about the political strife in Honduras that's going down right now. Guatemalan, all of these, I'll show you the map here in a second. Mexican, Nicaraguan, and Dominican. These are the other players in all of this. And what this is not putting, there were Chinese and Iranian folks that were detained today. So you have, and Russian. So you had them essentially detain Russian, Chinese, Iranians, Nicaraguan, Hondurans, Venezuelans, Hondurans, El Salvadorians, in a massive thing that swept through the city. I've been talking about this with National Guard that's been put out, and now we accept it as normal. But the fact is, when he started talking about putting National Guard out, he first said it was to clean up the streets because crime had gotten so bad. He didn't even really truly attribute it to cartels and all of this. Now it's because it is keeping the peace and all of this, and that there's cartels and all of this. It is absolutely crazy that people are not seeing what's going on. Now look at the map. I've been telling you this, and if you do at least humor my theory, the more and more every single day, it's going to slowly just confirm itself to you. There's going to be more and more that confirms exactly what I've been talking about with all of these countries. The things that we saw wrong with South Korea, with Iran, with Russia and Venezuela, with all of these things that happen. It is all happening right in front of us. So let me go to a map here. Let me show you the United States here. So let's go here. So as you can see, Guatemala, Nicaragua, all on the path. Panama, the Panama Canal, Costa Rican, all of this. So the Darien Gap starts here. So you come in through Venezuela or through Colombia. People from China would end up going into Colombia, then going up through here. If they wanted to get into our country illegally over the last 4 years, they would go through the Darien Gap. There's even more evidence that money is pouring into the jungle areas to clear a path for even vehicles now. Again, tank-wide column was built in the middle of the jungle. Absolutely nobody knew who was funding it at first. Then they came up with some shell company story, right? So Panama, you've got Nicaragua, all of these places on the route, El Salvador, all of these are involved in today's raid, almost as if it was a message to all of these countries, right? In fact, today it was Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Panamanians as well, and Iranians, Chinese. My broader point, and for the ones that are skeptic, I would say, please, in your heart, just please humor me and start looking at it through this lens, and you will start seeing just an absolute ton of things that are wrong with this. You have to also imagine that China is being super careful. They have the media on their side. They have the checkers on their side. They even have things that, basically these groups that say, oh, it's very wrong to say this kind of opinion because it makes people look badly towards a certain people. So that's assuming that everybody's an idiot and they just think that the Chinese government and the Chinese people are the same, or the Russian government and the Russian people are the same. They're not. Okay, they're governments. The people of the world are all the same. We're the same blood, same flesh. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what you do. We're all the same. We're humans, okay? But they are pushing. There's a huge pushback coming against any of this because the more and more it gets out, there are now people looking into this. There are now high-level people looking into this that are looking into the exact thing. And again, these are people in the public, civilians. As far as the military, when you look at all of their actions from clamping down on the border and actually putting in plain words that they're preventing and stopping an invasion, the president saying that there's soldiers not in uniform in our country, saying that it's not always easy to spot the bad guys. All of this, including this huge ICE operation and the National Guard in the cities, and things like Sarah Adams. Sarah Adams is essentially a version of me that is an ex-spook, right? People like me end up doing that kind of job. The reason why is because we can see through this version, right? Sarah Adams is looking at open source information. Same with what all of us are doing in this community. We're all looking at what we have available, but we're watching it very closely, and we're making the connections that everybody else is afraid to, or they don't want to say because some news article over here disproved it. You have to go with your gut on this. And I'm telling you, if you do, it will pay off in the end. Because when this goes down, I hope that people are prepped up. Because, and here's the good news. Here's good news. Here's to not scare you. I partially believe that the things that are happening right now may actually prevent it. There's a chance that all of these actions right now are being taken because they found out, they had the intelligence, they found out that these operations were going on. They found out that these people came in. Again, Dex, I know this sounds crazy, and we talked about this the other day, how when you look at it from the forefront, it is, but when you've been following this for so long, it actually looks less and less crazy, especially with how the media works, how the ownership of media, how certain countries are basically the hand that feeds these media companies, so they're not going to say bad things about certain countries. It's just wild how this is like adding up. This raid today was absolutely directly towards all of these countries that come into this. Not all of them are producing cocaine and drugs. They're specifically going after certain people from all of our adversarial countries.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and look, the message they put out is they're looking for the bad guys, the worst of the worst, and that's who they're going after. So, that's what they're going to tell us in the media, and that's what we'll be fed.
Now, another thing is the list of all of the countries that they, want to stop any kind of immigration from. All of these lists, it all makes perfect sense. Now, here is another thing that I actually thought, man, this is actually kind of crazy. So there's a totally unrelated story that actually I do believe it fits into this as well, and it's actually related to Lego. So Lego bought a company called Bricklink, which had basically a marketplace that sold Legos all around the world. Lego is a massive company, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Lego lately has blown up in popularity for adults and regular people because of all of the crazy sets. Some of you may have seen some of the cool sets. They do movies and all that. Well, they are a massive moneymaker. Massive moneymaker. Huge company. Giant. They have just quietly announced that their Bricklink will stop running in 35 different countries. So this whole marketplace, this thing that's been set up for a long time, Bricklink was around before Lego bought them, and it was an independent site that essentially organized people selling Lego to each other around the world, and even pieces. It's where you would go if you wanted a single little piece for something and you lost it 10 years ago, you could go get that piece from Sweden. The 35 countries on that list are all our adversarial countries. And why this matters is when you see the big companies saying, we're pulling out of here, we're doing this, we're doing that, that's because they've been given a heads up to slowly pull out of those countries because something is happening. This is the same thing that we heard from a toy company. Hasbro and Mattel are both pulling out of China. A huge pullout. I mean, we're talking toys, right? When you think of toys, most of you probably think, oh, most of those are made in China. Well, those two companies about 6-7 months ago quietly announced that they were going to pull out, and then they were going to shift towards India and other countries. That's a sign that something massive is going on. In fact, it was when the first tariff war happened with China, that's when they quietly announced it. So they got the heads up. These massive companies, why this matters is because you can clearly see that the countries listed match the countries that we're talking about with the adversarial import. The bringing in people, that doesn't affect products. So why would they close down these 35 countries, almost all of them? Colombia, Venezuela, all the ones that match up, Brazil, all of these major markets. And it even includes India in that. All of these markets, they are closing down for no reason. It doesn't make sense unless they got a heads up on something. Again, I think that just please humor me and look through this lens for a long time. Most of you that have watched for a long time, every day you're probably saying like, oh my gosh, this is what we've been talking about. And it's happening. It's happening right in front of our eyes. It is absolutely nuts. By the way, I want to thank Jan Turner 7. Sorry, I'm telling you, and every time I get hyped up about something, people say, calm down, chill out, bro. This is stuff I've been watching for years. And when there's stuff like this that absolutely tells my heart that it is the truth and I can feel confident about doing it, I will tell you 10 out of 10 times. I fully, and I have had doubts on myself, but it just keeps confirming itself in every way. Jan Turner, thank you for gifting 10 badges to the Marfoogle family. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience too. It took a while. Jonathan Floming, 1045, thank you for 2 years as a member. Says, much love all, finally my golden 24. That is awesome. Thank you. And then Jan Turner, thank you for gifting another 5 badges to the Foogle fam. Bone Score says, hi Adam and Dex, my autistic son asks about you. Hey, that is very awesome. As you know, we share that in common. My son is my favorite human being in all of the world. So say hello to your son. Bone Scorer, nice to see you again. And yeah, just absolute craziness happening. And by the way, there's more receipts here than I can show you in this show. It goes back to 2019. There's a ton here that I couldn't ever put into words, that I have to literally spend some time and put this whole timeline of the manipulation and the things that were happening, the money that was transferred to these countries that were now sitting outside of their countries. Oh, and the flights. There is a story I'll tell you guys about, because I'm going to do a story breaking all this down. You know how they did the no-fly zone? Well, there are flights. There is some sort of huge operation that was basically that they're finding between China, Russia, and having flights go out of Venezuela. And now they have a no-fly zone. Very, very convenient. I'll show you that when I put this together. It's going to be a separate video. It has to be, because I'm telling you, once you see the receipts, you're going to say, holy crap. We've seen this the whole time. I've told you guys about it. But again, if you watched me, I even doubted myself for a minute. I do not doubt myself anymore. Thank you so much. And by the way, there's holes in it too. Like the president has made decisions that make me wonder, question about him even. I'm not diehard anybody. I'm not, my loyalties lie with the truth, not with a political party or, a certain group of people. I highly believe that, we all need to step back and really go with our gut and not believe everything that's out there. And just because there's some sort of, quick lookup thing, oh, look at this up, oh, it says it's false. We have not been able to believe that ever. Atomic Blonde says, I've been watching you since Hawaii. Well, thank you so much for doing so. And again, Hawaii in itself, that was crazy too. What the hell happened there? False missile alert or real missile? We don't know. But we'll never know how many times we've come close. Dex, before we move on, before we go, I wanted to ask you too, as far as everything you've been seeing in, everything that's happening today, doesn't my crazy theory start making a lot more sense than what they're saying this is?
Well, I mean, certainly if they're going after people that they are targeting specifically, then they have cause for them, right? It's not just, oh, let's just find anybody that shouldn't be here. It sounds like they're targeting specific people. We've heard of them using facial recognition and just pulling up an individual and using that facial recognition to go find them. That's what they did with the Texas Afghan, right? They found his social media, that the post that he has made, they used facial recognition and identified him and arrested him immediately. So they're rounding people up surgically, so to speak, and they're going after the worst of the worst, as they say.
Yeah, rounding people up surgically. And that's the good news. Because what if we did have some massive event happening? Going back to Sarah Adams, again, Sarah Adams says that she believes that the Middle Eastern folks are weeks away, 2 weeks from operational phase. This is not something I'm saying. I'm not putting a date on anything. But she's saying within a couple weeks that they're going to be in the operational phase of some sort of event. She believes that up to 1,000 in each country, members of different Middle Eastern groups, are planning some massive event. All we have covered, the connections between our adversary in the East with Afghanistan and everything that's been going on, the weird things that have happened with Bagram Air Base, the weird rumors surrounding the Bin Laden family, all of these things that are happening right now, it all tells me that this is all connected. And it's so odd that 2 weeks before, she's been saying this whole time, the time period right now that is the time period. Now all of a sudden we have surgical teams going around the United States, rounding up certain people and taking them out. In these groups, in these raids, they have not only these ICE guys, but unmarked guys in military fatigues, these special ops guys going in there with them. That's what people believe, and people, they obviously have visual evidence of it, but we don't have facial recognition to know if these guys are freaking SEAL teams that are snuck in with these teams. We don't know. But what I do know is, it's like the big things that really stick out. It's like, oh, a raid at Hyundai, a raid in Chinatown. These aren't exactly the places where you'd find, Jose. So, and again, today, this is towards specific places. And surprisingly enough, more Hondurans than Mexicans in this raid, right? And they're going after specific people, going to exactly where they are. Seems to me like this is not just looking at people and saying, hey, show me your papers. They already know their papers, and they're going and grabbing them. People want to turn this into a political this versus that, and I think it's us versus them, and it's very, very scary to look at it that way. So that's why I said, if you don't like scary news, or if you don't like scary opinions, this isn't the channel or the show for you. But I highly recommend that you guys have a plan with your family just in case something happens. Again, we aren't expecting a Red Dawn parachuting out of the sky, paratroopers. It would be like, your next door neighbor. That's the crazy part. Thank you, Dex, for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Make sure to go check out Energy if you want a solar generator. This is our recommendation. This generator is the toughest one on the market. Steel reinforced frame. This is built for the U.S. Army. This actually won the SBIR Phase 2 contract. You're getting the same one that the Army gets as far as the specifications as well. This is front-loaded in the U.S., meaning there's no backdoor into it. There's no way that somebody's going to remotely access it and turn it off. That is a actual fear. This is why, again, government and city structures are now going through a lot of their equipment and checking these kind of things. They found radios in transformers in some of the renewable technology, so now they're looking at everything. Again, this, you can not only be assured that it won't turn off randomly, it also can be EMP shield protected. They actually make one directly for it that's plug and play. Plug the power plug into the EMP shield and the EMP shield into the wall. And boom, you're done. So again, go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy, code Marfoogle. Go check out our website. Of course, make sure to go support the mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat right now for our awesome mods. from Bobby Sue, Chance Paladin, the wonderful Ilea. We haven't seen her as much. She's so busy. She's got her whole family. I love you, Ilea. I do believe you were here tonight. Thank you so much. Rip Curl Readiness, Lisa R. Hall, the whole gang, and of course Wages. Make sure to continue to pray for him and his wife. His wife obviously recovering from surgery from cancer on her ear. So make sure to go pray for them as well. Thank you so much for following. And again, thank you for, listening to my rants. Appreciate you. Have a good night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. I'll be thanking top supporter tonight, Jan Turner, and also Jonathan Fleming and Atomic Blonde over on